So, today we're going to be covering the Encore mission, Viridescent Mage 4's, the Tier 8 version of him. And this is just going to be kind of like a showcase of what he does and how you want to approach it and what characters you might want to use versus this opponent. So, let's just get right into it, make it as short as possible, as short as I can. At the end, you might see that I might just pause and then exit. Yeah, I'm trying to conserve my keys. I got to be a little bit careful with the amount of keys I use because I do want gear, but I do not want this specific gear. I want the other gear sets, which are in the other Encore missions. So, we have Viridis and Mage Force. The recommended attribute that you want to use versus them is Fire. They do summon a special object. I believe it's on 4 sides. So basically northeast, west, and south of the map. And the boss does have a break gauge. And if of course you're gonna deal less damage if they still have the break gauge. So naturally you want to bring a break character to break break the boss. So now I'm not gonna use any shadows or anything like that. I'm just gonna show it raw without any shadows whatsoever. So it's just mainly going to be helping new players who are just starting out and kind of want to get an idea of how the basis and foundation of the team is. So now, first up, we're just gonna remove all these characters, and we're just gonna start off fresh. So here's what we know: the boss is wind, takes damage from fire, and has a break gauge. Now, there's 2 things to keep in mind. One, do not use a wind type because you're going to be dealing less damage to him unless you have a specific reason for the wind type. Now, I already tested before and I tried to use Huang on it, and Huang has an ability where basically he can remove shields, right? Very, very unique character, very underrated character because he's the only character in the game currently right now that can remove shields, right? This boss does happen to put up a shield, but I know a lot of people do not have Huang, so I'm not even going to consider him as an option. And we're gonna focus on everybody else aside from Huang. Now you're gonna want a couple things. You're gonna want your DPS character. You're gonna want your break character, and then you can have a tank or support character. Now, of course, I'm gonna start off. I'm going to use Min. If you do not have Min, you can use other damage taken, debuffers like Libora. If you do not have Libora, well then you probably might want to use a tank because I don't think there's really any other damage taken characters unless you invest into them. Like he needs 3 dupes, and then Wu needs, I believe, his weapon, and then he also needs a dupe so that way he can stack it 3 times. So I'm not going to consider them. But if you do not have the Libora and Min, then your next best option is to provide survivability for your team, which you can use either Kim Chul or Yu Jin Ho. I know you get Yu Jin Ho for free. I am not sure about Kim Chul. I do not remember if you get him for free because I have a dupe in him, so I'm not. It's not ringing any bells if you do or not. But those are 2 options. If you do not have them, then you can also use Huang Dong Suk. But I personally don't like him because sometimes when you switch to his QTE, he hits the opposite direction for some reason, and he just doesn't really have the best of skills, right? But he is an option. So, realistically, just bring a tank, like if you have Sail, use Sail. If you don't have Sail, then, I mean, probably not Bake. Actually, you can use Bake. But not for the purpose of being a tank, but for the purpose of breaking, right? So for this, I'm going to have Yu Jin Ho as my support. I'm not even going to use it. I'm not even going to bring Min. I'm not going to bring Libor. I'm not going to bring any of that. I was thinking about it, but I changed my mind. I'm going to just make it more raw, more easier for newer players, right? Then you're going to want a break character. Now, there's a bunch of break characters. Usually, they're always the tank characters. So Bake is a break character. Seo is a break character. He also breaks, so he could cover 2 areas if you need. But I mean, like I said, his skills are kind of bad. Who else is a break character? I believe she also breaks as well. She has a bunch of break. But just whatever you do not use wind, so do not use him, and do not use him. So for this, I am going to be using my Bake because I like playing Bake. He is fun to me. So we're just going to use him. Next up, we're going to have our DPS. Now your DPS, preferably a fire type. So if you have Choi, use Choi. You started off with Song, you can use Song. I'm not going to showcase him, but I have friends who've used Song as their main DPS, and he can actually kill the boss. But of course you have to have investment into him. I'm not going to waste gold all willy-nilly. I need to be conservative of it, so I'm not going to really use him. I'm just going to use Choi. A lot of people might already have Choi because they probably pulled on limited banner. So if you do, well, it's your lucky day. This encore mission is probably going to be the easiest cakewalk for you. So yeah, this is going to be the team. You're going to have your support or tank. You're going to have your breaker, and then which is going to be Bake, Sayo, all those other good stuff, the ones I mentioned earlier. And then you're going to have your main DPS, who's going to be Choi. It could be Lim. It could be anybody. Just whatever you do not make it a win DPS, right? Because then you're going to be dealing way less damage, and the whole point of actually being tier 8 is just doing as much damage as possible, so that way you don't get, caught up by time, right? So we're just going to get into it, and then you could just kind of watch and view how the boss reacts, and then how I am reacting to it, depending on what skill it is that the boss uses, etc. Right? So it says attack it with fire element, right? So if you have Song and Choi, you could use both of them, of course, and then use one support character. It's not bad either. Right? Here I am. When he does this AoE skill, you preferably want to avoid it. I am more beefier, so I don't really avoid it, but his attacks are very direct and standard, so like they're not very too difficult to dodge. It's mainly the poison that actually hurts you the most in this fight, right? So he does have a barrier, as you can see, a shield or whatever. I did try Hong earlier to see if it would remove it, but for some reason it didn't remove it. Right. You see there's 4 of these, or there was 4. Right. I'm close to breaking the boss. I'm gonna break the boss. Now we're gonna be dealing more damage because they're not getting a damage decrease. Apply as much damage as possible. Right. Extreme evasion. You just have to be mindful when he shoots out those waves of poison, because those do inflict you with poison, like this one. I think is really ideal because it does keep you alive. Boss is very simple. Like I said, it doesn't move too much. It's actually, to me, it's actually way easier than the snake. Junho is also especially good, and Kim is also especially good in this because, as I said before, they shield, and they both have stuns, which do interrupt the boss from doing skills that he shouldn't be doing if you time them properly. With a little trial and error, you'll be able to get it with ease. And it's not really that difficult. It's just mainly a DPS check and a survivability check. You don't really have to do too much dodging or none of that. If you build your Yu Jinho and you give him, you constantly reapply your shield, or if you use Kim Churl and then you constantly reapply your shield, you shouldn't be able to die. And then, of course, you have your break character to break them, so that way you're not dealing less damage when you're in your DPS character. and then you just go to town just like you've been playing the game. Just go to town with your DPS character, whoever you're using. Go crazy on them, go ham on them, do as much damage. Knock them out, kill them, whatever you got to do to get those gears, so that way you can start building your characters properly. So that way you can progress in the story and do the other encore missions. And unfortunately for me, I completely forgot because of the heat of the moment. I completely forgot to exit out. So kind of rip my key, but it is what it is. It's all for the experience and to show you guys how it is. So I mean, that's the boss. The boss isn't anything too crazy. Very simple and standard. They have a break gauge. You just kind of want to dwindle it down with your break character, and then use your support character to keep you alive. And then, of course, once they're break, your DPS character will be doing a little bit more than he was previously, or she. All right. Don't bring wind characters, and preferably bring fire characters if possible, as many as possible, and one support character to keep you alive. All right. So that's gonna be it. That's basically the Viridescent Mage Force. So other than that, it's not anything difficult. Simple, easy. I hope this sheds some light on some players who are going to be going into it blind, or they're trying to get a little bit higher. Those are going to be characters I recommend you to use, preferably. Of course, you would be like no brainer. Of course, you would use fire, right? Of course, right? But I'm just going to throw it out there because there might be some other options you can use, and that's precisely why I gave you some of the options that you can use. So I appreciate you guys for watching, and of course, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.